Welcome to Conversations Different, the podcast from the Santa Fe New Mexican, featuring the interesting people, places, and issues of northern New Mexico. This is Inez Russell Gomez, and today we are speaking with Megan Mulry, Executive Director of the Santa Fe International Literary Festival. With her is Susan Burks, Executive Producer for the festival. Welcome, Megan and Susan.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Inez.
So you guys, gals, are about a month out as we tape today. How is it going as you prepare?
We have a counter on the website, so we are exactly 35 days, and it's really happening. Everything's coming together with the authors, with the students, with the audience, with the convention center, the community. We're really excited.
So we were talking ahead of time about what each of your jobs is. And Susan, I love how Megan said you do the weekend, she runs the whole business. So what does that mean, do the weekend? How do you put everything together? Because it's a lot of moving parts.
There are so many moving parts, and it's all about making sure that the authors are taken care of, that we know where they're staying, that we know how they're getting there, that we also know how the convention center is coming together in terms of both where people are going to be meeting, how they're going to find their way, organizing the bookstore, and making sure that all the events and the vendors that surround the festival are in place. So you're right. It's a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. I remember the first one of how the lines were held and how everybody got in. And I still thought for a beginning festival, there were very few things that fell through the cracks, at least from the public side of it.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful to Claire Hertel and Mark Bryan and Carmela Padilla, the founders, just had such a clear vision of what it should look like and the beautiful elements and the practical elements and really bringing all of that together. They did an amazing job.
Now, how long have you been familiar with the festival, Megan? Because you've been in Santa Fe a few years.
This will be 9 years this summer that I moved here in 2016, and I worked for another nonprofit in town and started at the festival in September of last year.
Right.
And I hate to confess that I have not been to the festival personally, so I'm really seeing it, which is good and bad. I'm able to see if there's any room for improvement, but also just to inherit this incredibly organized, even after 3 years, really successful and wonderful event.
Yeah. Well, there's something in organizational theory that you have the brains of the founders, and then you need to pass it off to someone who can run everything, and hopefully that goes smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they are passionate, and I can be a bit of a bean counter, so that's good too in terms of fundraising and making sure that everything kind of runs on time, and inheriting amazing colleagues like Susan and Sandy Wiley, who's worked with the Folk Art Market and Balloon Fiesta. She handles all of our ticketing and volunteers. Marlene Saritsky handling the authors. Just an amazing group of really talented people to take care of all those details.
So you've been at past festivals. What's going to be different this time?
Well, I've been here since the very first festival.
Right.
And I think what's different is that we are almost completely sold out at this point, and that is just an amazing feat for only 4 years. So we're going to be even bigger, even more busy, I think. And and at the same time, I think that there's that strong foundation laid. So there is a better sense of knowing what we're supposed to do and how to get it done. We have a different bookstore this year than we had last year. Bookworks from Albuquerque is going to be taking care of the bookstore, and we're really excited to have them. We love spreading the goodness around between all of the amazing bookstores in New Mexico.
Right. And they're a locally owned store as well.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Independent bookseller.
Yeah.
And really just improving upon the existing successes by increasing the number of complimentary tickets that we're giving to students and teachers and librarians. I think we might even be able to get up to 2,000 free tickets this year, and a couple of poetry programs that will also be free. So it's keeping the structure, but just trying to engage the community a little bit more as well.
Yeah, because I remember in past conversations for editorials more than for podcasts, one of the pushes is that they really want to connect with the community and especially connect with young people. Yeah. But because it's toward the end of a semester, it's very difficult. You're not going to be teaching 2 units on a book at the end of May or the middle of May.
Yeah, we really lucked out working with a nonprofit called Narrative 4, which is a story exchange organization based in Los Angeles, but they've targeted 3 cities in the United States, and Santa Fe is one of those those cities. So they've already been working really closely with teachers and students, and we're going to do an event with them with about 40 to 50 students. So it kind of allows us to be the bridge to the authors to say, well, bring this author to meet with your students rather than putting ourselves in the position of doing curriculum development or things that
you kind of farm it out to the people who are experts at that thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if it's almost sold out, does that mean the whole event or like certain authors, like I would assume Amy Tan went fast or, people like that, or even Michael Pollan in this area?
Yeah. It was a lot of the evening events, which are kind of our headliners. Those were the first to go. And it really kind of went down the line in terms of people being aware of these writers, wanting to see them, and more enthusiasm than in past years, even more. There was always enthusiasm.
Yeah, no, I think that we're in a time where people want community. They want to talk to people who like some of the things they like, and not political, but just words and the story and all of that. And this gives you such a good place to do it at.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think it's a time when people really want to find things in common. There's enough to polarize all of us. And it's amazing when you, just as we were saying before, the books that we're reading right now and recommending a book that you love and finding that connection with people on a large scale is really exciting.
Yeah, I have a real phobia about large crowds. And I remember when Margaret Atwood was speaking a few years ago, and somehow the plane was late or something, so the guy had to go first and she went after. And I was like, can I sit through this crowd for, another hour? And I did, because it was Margaret Atwood. And my favorite moment of any of the literary festivals is when she said, can I talk now? To the interviewer, who was a little gregarious. But it was just her wisdom. And that's something when you hear what they have to say, but also their writing process, because there's so many levels of a love of literature.
Yes. I think, and their willingness to share that.
Yes.
But you feel like you are really there with them. I went to another festival in January because I'm sort of scoping out, seeing how other festivals run, but also for my own enjoyment. And there were a couple of our authors who were there, Viet Thanh Nguyen, who's coming, who wrote The Sympathizer, which is now on HBO, and he's coming here as well. And he spoke so eloquently and so, as you said, intimately, almost. You feel like you're really there while they're explaining their process. And he was on his way from there to Nicaragua to do more research on his next book. So you really feel like you're part of the whole process.
Yeah, totally. And you get that kind of Tommy Orange last year when he was talking about what he was working on. And I'm just like, can you write faster? It was great.
I think there's also a really wonderful thing that happens with the moderators. One, because these are longer talks, they're a whole hour.
Yes.
And the fact that the moderators have really kind of embraced the work and really gone deep into how these, like Ramona Emerson was actually interviewing Tommy.
Yes.
And so there's this wonderful new things that you're hearing from the authors because of the way they're being interviewed.
Yeah, no, there's totally, I think it's really interesting. As a journalist who does interviews, you always have to not talk too much as the interviewer, so you let the interviewee go. And listening to them with all the knowledge they had, the ones who could really pare it down, I think the best interviewers at all the festivals I've been to have been the ex-journalists who might also be novelists, et cetera.
Yes.
Because they know how to do it. It's really interesting to watch.
Absolutely. And we definitely have our share of those. I don't know if you know Kathleen McCleary, who used to be on the PBS NewsHour.
Okay.
She's going to be interviewing Heather Cox Richardson.
Oh, exciting.
So it's wonderful to have people, as you said, who really know how to research and then also elicit all of that from the author. And in Percival Everett's case, he is being interviewed by the director of American Fiction, Cord Jefferson.
Wow.
And they became friends when Percival Everett's book Erasure was made into that movie. So that's also, as we were talking about, that kind of creative process and the way it's all braided together. I'm really exted to hear them talk about that.
From the beginning, the level of authors that this festival attracted was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And, last year with Tommy and with I can't remember her name. But the level of authors that we have at this festival has been amazing. But one of the things that as a New Mexican has been nice for my heart is how so many local authors have been honored and what a wealth of literary talent we have in New Mexico.
Absolutely.
I think that's been a really important focus of the festival, is to make sure and honor where we are and the history of literature here in New Mexico. There's been a big priority to make sure that was focused on. And we're having a tribute to N. Scott Momaday this year.
That's something.
Yep.
And his granddaughter is now a poet.
Yes, and they're both,
Natasha Gray.
Jill Momaday is going to be there, and Natachi and Julian Brave Noisecat, who was the director of Sugarcane.
A former podcast guest.
And Terry Tempest Williams and Colin McCann are all going to be on that panel, and I agree. I think the weaving together of the New Mexican writers has been great.
Yeah, I interviewed Scott Momaday when I was a baby reporter, and I can just remember hardly being able to write because the timbre of his voice was so beautiful. I just wanted to listen to it. It was just like hearing God in your room kind of thing. Nice. On that note, we'll be back in a moment with more Conversations Different.
Are you dreaming of a home of your own in Santa Fe but feel like it may never happen? HomeWise is here to help. We are a local nonprofit that has helped close to 7,000 New Mexicans from all income levels and backgrounds become homeowners. HomeWise has everything you need to succeed in home ownership, including free coaching and classes, real estate services, affordable fixed-rate mortgages with low down payments, and down payment assistance to qualified borrowers who meet income restrictions and credit qualifications. We'll be with you every step of the way. Get started today on your path to owning a home. Call 505-983-9473 or visit us at homewise.org. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 188231.
Welcome back to Conversations Different, where we are in a decidedly literary frame of mind. Megan, talk about some of the things that people can do outside of the festival, because I know there's always auxiliary events that go with it.
Absolutely. So for the days before and after the festival, a lot of people come from out of town. We actually just got an email from someone in Hawaii who was looking at different festivals, and she said, I read about the Santa Fe Festival, and that's where I'm going. And we have on Thursday night, we've partnered with Sky Railway, and Hakeem Bellamy, who was the first poet laureate from Albuquerque, is hosting a writing workshop of sorts from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. There's more info on our website and on the Sky Railway
So
website.
It's a writing workshop.
It is a riding and writing workshop, exactly. Yeah. And then throughout the weekend, there are shorter walk and talks and little excursions from the convention center. But on Sunday, there are longer literary day trips. We've partnered with multiple nonprofit organizations in the past, and this year that includes the School of Advanced Research, has a couple of tours on Sunday. The George O'Keeffe Museum has been an amazing partner, so you can get a private tour of their library, and Nomadic School of Wonder.
They're doing a really new thing called the Wonder Walk, and to really explore the creative and literary inspirations that are sort of hidden amongst just walking around downtown, and really tuning into the sense receptions that you have when you are in the middle of these old buildings and this deep sense of history.
Nice.
Yeah. And we have a spirit tasting at Saison and Los Poblanos Norte. So there's a wonderful variety of experiences.
Chocolate tasting from Kakawa.
Oh, how fun. I always think you have to go by the Starbucks because so many people are still writing at the coffee shop.
That's true.
You know, and Echo's gone, so there's not as many downtown coffee shops as there used to be.
And there's a wonderful tour guide, Garrett Peck, who does tours throughout the year, but he's doing 2 Willa Cather tours for us, one on Saturday and one on Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great mix.
That'll be interesting. I got to go on one of those because I always want to hear if they present the New Mexican side of it, because from the locals' perspective, her view of the Archbishop was much more favorable than many of us had in terms of our ancestors and stuff. And it's a great book, but it's like you were kind of mean to the priest. It's really, history is who writes it and who gets known for it kind of thing.
Absolutely. And when we read books, I read that book when I was a teenager, so I always think of it as, oh, it was this sort of happy, and then I went back to read it again, and I thought, this is not such a happy time for a lot of people in this book.
And he did not like, the real Archbishop Lamy did not like Northern New Mexico architecture, which is why I love the cathedral, though, so I guess I'm happy he didn't. So it kind of ends up with interesting results as a thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love, My Antonia is like one of my favorite books from when I was a kid. She's she's just the best.
Yeah, yeah.
And she was, when I remember, is finding out that women wrote books too. You know, you knew it kind of, but they were famous, not just like Nancy Drew kind of things.
Yeah.
She was important that way. Is the structure kind of the same with the big speech on opening night and then the little kind of breakdowns kind of thing? Talk about how it works.
We have a main event on Friday night. That's the only talk on Friday. And then throughout the day on Saturday and Sunday are a combination of the big stage, we call them the big stage talks. And in the afternoons, there's 2 different sessions of concurrent talks. So there's a smaller stage, smaller venue, as well as the larger venue happening at the same time. People have to make choices.
Oh, it's so hard.
Both mornings, both Saturday and Sunday morning, is a meditation, one run by Joan Halifax,
right?
Roshi Jones. So she's done this every year. And then Henry Shookman is going to do the one on Sunday. So that's a wonderful way for people to start the day as well. And those are happening first thing at 8 in the morning.
And that really, I think, goes back to the idea that reading is good for your mind. It calms you, at least for me.
Absolutely.
So does meditation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. We're just about to do a newsletter about Henry and this idea of even a literary festival. Silence is golden. You just take a moment. And the other, it just reminded me when you were talking about the things that are staying the same, the response to Percival Everett was so overwhelming that we actually went back to the convention center and asked if we could do the entire ballroom. So for the first time, we're going to do, or in the first time in a couple of years, the entire ballroom. So anyone who's listening who's on the wait list, you'll be hearing from us shortly that everyone who's on the wait list is going to actually get to go to that. But just for that one night. So it's exciting.
That is exciting. Are you ever surprised at what people like compared to what you think they might like?
Santa Fe has a very specific personality and taste. You know, the response to Heather Cox Richardson, I think, shows it's a very politically engaged and astute audience. She sold out faster, I think, than Amy Tan. I mean, Amy sold out also, but it says something about our audience that Heather was really a draw for a lot of people and has been.
Everybody I know practically subscribes to her newsletter.
We wake up and we turn over and exactly.
That's why when they asked me who I wanted to interview, that was the first name because I'm hoping that more people will listen. Yeah. And I just think her message is really important as well.
Absolutely.
It's so grounding.
Yeah, it is.
In a way, I can relate to it in terms of the festival as a whole as well. The way she positions what we're going through now in a larger context and a historical context, I think it helps us all breathe a little bit. And I think for this festival, it's the same. We're bringing people with different perspectives and wanting everyone to come in and share their opinions and kind of with a lack of conflict somehow.
Right, because it doesn't have to be about politics if you like a book or you don't like a book. And it's really, I think, important to remember that we can have places where we meet, where we don't have to fight, you know, even if your favorite author is different than my favorite author.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of the authors, too, help us expand our understanding. I mean, Marie Rana's Latino Land is one of those books where it's not asking you to have an opinion, but it's giving you so much more information. And I think a lot of the authors really expand us that way.
Yeah. And that's really one of the important things about this time in the world is that so many of us, including myself, are set in what we know. And we need to open ourselves up to what other people know or think.
Absolutely. Now, we were talking about it before the podcast, but I just finished Gabrielle Zevin's Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and it's the same idea on both a micro and a macro level because the book is ostensibly about video gamers, and I thought, oh, well, that's not going to be of interest to me, and it was one of the best books I've read in the last 6 months. I really enjoyed it. It was about relationships and, you know, starting a business and how we deal with friends over many, many years, and those relationships can ebb and flow, and it was, really wonderfully written, and I'm very excited to see her. And she's being interviewed by Hakeem Bellamy as well. So
that's going to be
excited
interesting
to hear the two of them.
That's right. Who are you excited about seeing?
Oh, goodness. You know what I love is encountering the people whose books you love or whose books have fascinated you in person.
Yeah.
Because very often it's much like actors, I suppose. They're very shy or much more outgoing or they are fans of each other. And so I'm delighted by all of it. I think each one holds a special place for me that I'm interested in meeting them for.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's exciting to listen to, again, going back to the structure, you know, as a person who writes, I don't think about it. I just sit down and I do it every day because I have to fill a space in the paper. But someone who's like plotting a whole novel or, doing research for a really in-depth reported book kind of thing. I love how they work and how they think about their work.
And likewise, the poets. I think having this going from I'm imagining the 1,700 people coming to see Percival Everett, but we're also activating the other building above the community gallery this year. And there's smaller rooms, more intimate rooms. So we're going to have the poetry sessions up there with 100 people, 100?
Yeah.
Maximum of 100 people. Tommy Archuleta, who's our poet laureate, Elizabeth Jacobson, Dana Levin's coming to town, and also Victoria Chang. And I love the Victoria's most recent book is her poems responding to Agnes Martin. So there's this kind of wonderful, again, it does fall into the sort of Willa Cather, Georgia O'Keeffe co-opted New Mexican thing, but I feel like her poems really, there's going to be a wonderful tie in there.
Now that's, when I was in Taos working at the paper there, I remember going to lunch and there would be Agnes Martin in the corner. And we would see her, and it was like, that's a great painter. And my friend, who was the photographer at the paper, but also a graduate of Parsons and a fancy New Yorker, she would say, I'm going to stare at this painting until I get it, because she didn't get it, despite all of her art background. And we would go, and some gallery had it, and we'd go look, and we'd say, okay, what is it? And
you will love these poems. Each one has an Agnes Martin painting to the left, some of which have been adjusted by the author, and just talking about how we impose grids and control, and she just extracts so much from it. It's really
and wonderful. The beauty of an Agnes Martin painting is you get out of it what you see. It's what she puts into it, but there's a whole lot of the viewer in it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. On that note, we'll take a quick break and be back in a moment with more Conversations Different.
This is Patrick Dorsey, publisher of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Looking to reach a wider audience and grow your business? For 175 years, the Santa Fe New Mexican has been the trusted voice of Santa Fe, with unmatched local reach in print and online. In addition to our long-standing, independent, family-owned newspaper, we have a full-fledged marketing team with the expertise to help you succeed in the 21st century. From traditional print to precision-targeted digital advertising, we have the tools to connect you with your ideal customers. Partner with us and see the results for yourself. Advertise with the Santa Fe New Mexican and unlock your business's full potential. Visit us at santafenewmexican.com/advertising or call us at 505-995-3852. Thank you.
We're back with Conversations Different, talking to Megan and Susan about the Santa Fe International Literary Festival, which will be, give me the dates and your website.
May 16th through 18th. And we have a shortened website, sfilf.org, sfilf.org, but the full website is sfinternationallitfest.org.
Wow. That, I think the shorter one will be good for people.
Sfilf.org is good.
And what I do when I can't find it is I just Google Santa Fe International Literary Festival. It comes right up. What is the international portion this year?
So the international portion this year is several. We have Colin McCann coming from Ireland. His book just came out. It's called Twist.
Wow.
I haven't read it yet, but Susan has. And already being named in a lot of top 10 lists. The Economist just named it one of the best books of the year so far.
Nice, nice.
And then from Mexico, Cristina Rivera Garza is one of the best-selling authors in Mexico. She's coming from Mexico City, and she writes murder mysteries, so that would be of interest to you, Inez.
Good.
Also was recently on the cover of the New York Times book review, and she's being interviewed by Maria Hinojosa.
She knows how to interview.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
sure.
So I think there are others that I can look at, but those are the ones that I'm primarily excited about.
Well, I think it was interesting to go to Add International, and it was, I think, as I remember them explaining it, a way of showing the connections across the world.
Absolutely.
Well, and I was going to say, I think that's really even more about not just who we bring, but the topics and the worlds that are explored within it. It really is such a far-reaching range that we find in all of the authors, and they do bring us into a global sense every year.
And especially, I think, at a time time when we're so focused on borders.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is something that brings us to show what we have in common and what we can talk about and understand.
Absolutely. So in that sense, when we sent out a newsletter about Amy Tan, we got an email from the head of the English program at Capitol High who said, "You're not going to believe it. My students are reading Joy Luck Club right now."
Oh.
So they're going to get to meet her when she's here in town. We've arranged for that meeting, and we really want to increase. So saying international, there's so many Viet Thanh Nguyen American.
That's right. You can be an American, but write about a different country.
Exactly. And
yeah.
as I've also said, in these sort of liminal spaces between crossing borders, what are borders? We know because we live in New Mexico. And as my son just pointed out, we're the only license plate that says New Mexico, USA, because they think we are in Mexico. And there's just such a movement around boundaries. Yeah. And a lot of these authors address that.
I sent an email to the Washington Post because they had written a story about states named after countries, and they included us in it. And I said, do you know that our name is older than the name of the country of Mexico? And here's why. And he said, well, yeah, we knew that, but we decided to put you in anyway. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But there was a New Mexico before there was an Old Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just like everyone to know that.
Sounds like a Woody Allen movie.
Yeah, no, it's a geographical name. There's something in there that they picked it. So anyway, I love the idea that the kids are going to get to meet Amy Tan. I remember when that book came out, and all of my friends, we all read it.
Absolutely.
And I'm really thrilled that she's going to be breathing the same air that I am.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, just as we were talking about earlier, about authors' processes, and she's going to be talking about the new book that she has out about birds, and all of her beautiful drawings are going to be on the screen. There's a selection of drawings, and just sort of seeing her trajectory as an artist.
She's really talented.
Exactly.
She shows up on my Facebook feed. I don't know why. And there's Amy Tan and her latest bird, and I'm just like, oh, that makes me happy.
Yeah.
The detail has gotten incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the N. Scott Momaday panel is going to provide this sort of conceptualizing how someone who's no longer with us but is still influencing younger artists and authors and filmmakers, and so I'm excited.
I think that's important.
And this crossover between the way in which so many of the authors that we've hosted and are going to be hosting have also had their books adapted to film. So we did a little something with Violet Crown where we are actually going to have a mini film fest of movies by this year's authors and a couple of authors from last year that'll air each week on Wednesday nights at 6:30 starting next week.
Oh, that sounds really fun.
Yeah.
There is a new Santa Fe movie club started by Mary Charlotte, who on Wednesday night, she gets all her friends and they go to local theaters to gather and to go to local movies. So that's going to be perfect.
Perfect crossover on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, that's good. I'll have to tell her. I joined and I still haven't gone to a movie because I keep working too late. But someday I will be at one. And she's really seeing the idea that we want to, just like we want to support local bookstores.
Absolutely.
You want to support locally owned theaters because you can get to see some of the controversial documentaries or things that you're not going to see other places.
Absolutely. And speaking of local independent bookstores, Bookworks from Albuquerque is going to be our on-site vendor, but we still support all of our local bookstores in Santa Fe. We have more independent bookstores per capita than any city our size. And if you go into Collected Works or Garcia Street, they have full tables with all of our books. And if you buy them there, you can still have them signed by the author at the festival. So
that's nice.
We don't want
Do you
there
need
to
to
be
bring
any...
a receipt or anything? Or
Nope.
just
Nope.
just bring it in.
If you
Okay,
have your
good.
dog-eared beloved Joy Luck Club from 1989, you go ahead and bring it.
I think I do.
I know, I think I do too.
I remember someone asking me, why is the New Mexican still a fairly robust small paper? And I said, because people here still read.
Yep.
The same reason we have bookstores. We're very fortunate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How have you enjoyed your first few months?
It's been incredible. It's the caliber, as you've said, the caliber of these authors working with their publishers and their agents and this incredible team and the city and all of these hotels. I was just blown away by, Jenny Kimball at La Fonda and all of the people who have just been so supportive, and the Surratts at the Inn of the Five Graces, just everyone who has opened their arms and their doors to welcome these authors. And I think that is, again, a testament to the founders that this is really, the message is out that we're here for the whole community.
Yeah, I like that because so often in Santa Fe, we get into this fight about us versus them and we can't go and we're locals, but we're not welcome. But you want, like, the kids at the Capitol getting to meet Amy Tan. That's something they're never going to forget.
Yeah. And as you mentioned earlier on about that being it's kind of a tough weekend for students because I know my son's got prom that Saturday night. It's before finals. It's the second to last weekend in May. We are going to try to do more asynchronous programming if we can. We met with the head at Mandela. They have a monthly talk, and even if it's via Zoom, to have an author be able to engage with those students at other times. So
That'll be nice. And then there's the writing program at NMSA and
absolutely,
and all the different things that they do at the high
Absolutely.
schools and even middle schools. There's some art programs in the middle schools that are amazing that there could be authors that mix with those kids too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds exciting. What are you looking forward to, Susan?
One of the things I'm really excited about is that we're getting a chance to honor some of the organizations in town, like Literacy Volunteers, which is just an incredible organization, is having their 40th anniversary this year. So we're hosting a reception for them at the festival that Ramona Emerson will host.
Oh, that's exciting.
And then the Authors Guild will be having a reception, and New Mexico writers are going to be there. And I love this idea that we become a hub for all of these different ways in which literature and literacy is being empowered and supported within the community.
Oh, that's important because as we all know, our literacy rates are not as high as they need to be. Although I think if this one teacher the principal at Nava Elementary School brought his literacy rates up in a year by focusing in the early grades on getting everyone to comprehend words. And I've been trying to get the city or somebody through editorials, I'm not a person who puts things together, to put word walls up in grocery stores and doctor's offices because I think they can read. I think they just don't know what the words mean.
Yeah.
And so we just have to increase comprehension.
Yep.
That is.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
That'll be the festival's next project.
Yeah,
Increasing comprehension.
or celebrating the organizations that do. Again, I think that's just a great way that we can build the organization, as you said, as a hub to raise those voices because they're much better at it than we are.
You go to the people who know what they're
Exactly.
doing, obviously. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Is there anything that people should know if they want to get a ticket or if there's someone that's not sold out but that could be sold out?
Put your name on the wait list because as what happened with Percival Everett, there's always a chance that some tickets might be released or that a group can't make it. And then also we have a dedicated accessibility team this year. We've listened to people who have had issues with hearing assistance or disability issues with mobility, and we're really trying to be mindful of that. So if that applies to anyone in your audience, please stay in touch, and we're here to help with those challenges as well.
So it's available for everybody,
Absolutely.
no matter how they approach it and come to it. That's
Absolutely.
good. That's good. Well, thank you so much for taking time,
Thank you.
we appreciate it, and we're very excited. And this has been another Conversations Different. We'll be back next week. Thank you for listening to Conversations Different, hosted by me, Inez Russell Gomez, editorial page editor for the Santa Fe New Mexican. Our weekly episodes would not be possible without your support. We hope you enjoy them and keep listening. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Consider signing up for our newsletter so you never miss an episode, and while you're at it, consider subscribing to the Santa Fe New Mexican. Our podcast is available by visiting our website, santafenewmexican.com/podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Conversations Different with Inez Russell Gomez is produced by Matt Dalside and Ernesto Cisneros, published by the Santa Fe New Mexican, a local and independent newspaper owned by Robin Martin.